Welcome back, everybody, to the Cleveland Cavaliers MyNBA series here on NBA 2K21 for the PS5. So, of course, last episode, unfortunately, our season came to a close. We lost games 5 and 6 of the second round of the postseason against the Boston Celtics. And, of course, we have now been eliminated, but it was not without a strong fight. In Game 5, we kept it close from start to finish, but we just didn't shoot the ball well. We played good defense, though. They did not shoot the ball well either, but the Celtics ended up winning 88-95. And then Game 6, our must-win game, we did not win. 102-90 was the final. Another game that we kept super close. The Celtics kind of ran away with it at the end, but Odavius Shepherd scored 46 points. He was outstanding, but the rest of the guys just did not step up for the most part. And, well, Shepherd's attempt to carry us fell short. Here's a quick look at the postseason stats. I'll do a quick little mini recap of everybody's regular season stats in just a second here. But I think we played well in the postseason. Obviously, we beat the Brooklyn Nets in the first round. We gave Boston, the best team in the NBA probably, a big fight in the second round. And for a young team, I'm very impressed. Looking at the regular season stats, and we have to start with Odavius Shepherd, who is our best player. Had a phenomenal rookie season, 22.5 points, 6.5 assists, and 5.5 rebounds per game. He made the All-Star team. He won Rookie of the Year. He made All-NBA first team as a rookie. Pretty incredible. Collin Sexton, in the first year of his new contract, was very solid, tied his career high in points per game. Was a little bit disappointing in the playoffs, but he was very efficient. Cedric Garrett had a nice year. He's a very similar player to Odavius Shepherd as more of a point playmaking forward. So I'm not surprised that his numbers really didn't go up, but I do think he improved a lot this year. Not a ton of assists in the postseason because I think he gets a lot more in simulated games than games that I play. Cam Reddish had a nice year, career high in points, career high in shooting percentages from the field, from three, and the foul line as well. So good to see Cam Reddish continuing to get better. Kevin Porter Jr. had another nice year. He also had career highs in field goal percentage and three-point percentage. He is our spark plug off the bench, and he can get points in bunches, which is really where he makes his money. Okabe Adeoye is very interesting. We traded for him mid-season. He was a little bit disappointing in the year, but in the playoffs, he was really disappointing. And I think we're probably not planning on making him our long-term center. I think Yusuf Diafathobo is the better player. Remember Farek Nawara? I don't think anybody remembers this guy. He got hurt like 25 games into the year. Well, he's going to be back healthy next year. He could be a player we look to move in the offseason. I don't think his role on next year's team is set, but we used the 6th overall pick on him for a reason. Obviously, Big Fafa really stepped it up in the playoffs. I think he's a better player than Okabe Adeoye. And I think we're going into next year with the idea that Yusuf Diafathobo is probably our long-term center. Mamadou Anachiania showed flashes, nothing crazy, but I think he can be a good 3-and-D player off of our bench. Nasir Little, he started for most of the regular season after we got him from the Trailblazers. Played less minutes in the postseason, so obviously his numbers are a little bit lower, but I think he's a solid player, and if we look to re-sign him, I think he would be a nice piece. We have options going into this offseason because the only player on a long-term large contract is Collin Sexton. We do have a lot of players who are free agents, but most of our core is on their rookie deals, so this will give us really a strong opportunity to trade for a star, sign a star, or really just be aggressive in some way this offseason, not only with our lucrative financial situation, but also with all the young assets we have. We can easily make a move and get a star player alongside Odavius Shepherd, which I think could really push this team into a legit NBA Finals contender next year, and I think that's probably the plan going into the offseason. It is a strong free agency class. Keep in mind, a lot of the younger guys in here are either restricted or on team options, but Joel Embiid is unrestricted, Kristaps Porzingis, Rudy Gobert, certainly no shortage of size, Nikola Vucevic as well. There's also guys like Paul George in here too, so very interesting offseason we are approaching. I made a color-coded graphic to pretty much show you guys my thoughts on certain players and what I plan on doing with them. As you can see, there's a little key at the bottom. Based on the color that the player's name is written in, That is their contract situation. We only have 4 players under contract next year, but we have a lot of guys on team options and a lot of restricted free agents. The only untouchables are Davius Shepherd. That one's pretty self-explanatory. Unlikely to trade. I'm probably not going to trade these guys. Colin Sexton, Cedric Garrett, Yusuf Diafafofobo, and Mamadou Anechiania. I'd like to keep those guys long-term, but they're not necessarily untouchable. The expendable players are guys who I'm willing to trade, including Okapi Adioye, Farek Dewara, Zion Hopkins III, who's a very interesting player. We used our second-round pick on him last year. I think he could be good enough to get NBA minutes next year. Isaiah Thomas and Grant Houston. Of the expendable players, Nwora is the only one who will be under contract on draft night, which is a very big deal. If we want to make a draft day trade and we want to add a player, Nwora is the only guy I'm really looking to trade because the only guys under contract with him are Shepherd, Sexton, and Anechiania. We have 5 free agents. Kevin Porter Jr., Cam Reddish, and Nasir Little are all restricted. I'd like to bring them all back. I don't think that's overly likely, though. And then Evan Turner and Taco Fall are unrestricted. Neither of those guys really play. Might bring back Taco for the memes, but I think our key guys who are free agents are the 3 restricted guys. So let's simulate here to the NBA Finals. In the West, we have the defending Western Conference champion Timberwolves taking on the Spurs. In the East, it's the defending Eastern Conference champion Celtics taking on the Bulls. And as you can see, the 2 teams who made the finals last year have been dethroned. The Spurs and Bulls both win in 7 games and are moving on to the NBA Finals. These are 2 very odd teams. The Bulls are led by Jimmy Butler. He is back in Chicago. They also have Zach LaVine, former Cavalier Andre Drummond, Kobe White, Devontae Graham, and others. If you think this team is not star-studded, look at the San Antonio Spurs, who have even less star power. Their highest-rated player is John Collins. They also have former Bull Wendell Carter, along with DeJounte Murray, Keldon Johnson, Cam Bowman, and other key players. Both teams have key rotation players who are going to be out for this entire finals, with Victor Oladipo out for the Spurs and Deni Avdija out for the Bulls. So let's get to simming here. The Spurs are currently up 2-1, make that 3-1, and then in Game 5, the San Antonio Spurs take it home. Greg Popovich wins another championship with John Collins winning Finals MVP. I never thought I'd see a team led by John Collins who would win the NBA Finals. So here is a look at the retirement stage. I think the best player here is probably Marc Gasol. So as you can see, not a lot of key players, but there was one guy who the game decided to not show, and it's a pretty big name. That guy is LeBron James, the greatest Cleveland Cavalier of all time. He is unsurprisingly a Hall of Famer. I don't know why the game did not show him just then. I think that is super odd. But yeah, no more LeBron. He gets his number 6 retired by the Heat and his number 23 retired by us, which is very well deserved. I think he can make an argument that his number 23 could be retired by the Lakers as well. But yeah, greatest Cavalier in history and arguably the greatest player in NBA history. I know that's certainly up for debate. LeBron finishes 2nd in points. Surprised he didn't play long enough to finish 1st. 2nd in field goals made, 8th in 3-pointers made. Even though he wasn't a sharpshooter, he still made a lot. Finishes 4th in free throws, 34th in rebounds with over 10,000. Again, not a premier rebounder, but longevity pushes him up there. 4th all-time in assists, 8th all-time in steals, 2nd all-time in minutes. Again, I would have thought he would have broken this record, but that still goes to Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. Most turnovers of all time, 6th in games played all time. He finished 7th in 40-point games, and he also will finish 8th in 50-point games. Not to mention, he also finished 4th all-time in triple-doubles. So, just an incredible career here from LeBron James. Definitely the greatest player of this generation, and arguably the greatest player in NBA history. I know many people have strong opinions on whether he is or isn't. But let's move on here. We will now be looking over the rule changes. I really thought about turning the shot clock to 20 seconds. I thought that could have been fun. I decided not to, but I think it's something that could have been interesting and something I could consider in the future. I did not accept any other rule changes. So for the draft lottery, usually I do a big thing for it, but since we do not own a lottery pick, I'm not going to do the whole green screen thing. We're just going to look at it here. I think the most interesting storyline for us is that Sixers pick via Milwaukee, because we did once own that pick, but we used it in order to trade up for Davius Shepherd. So certainly not a move we regret. As you can see, early changes here. The Washington Wizards, who had the second worst odds of getting the number 1 pick, have moved into the top 4. That Sixers pick via Milwaukee finishes at 12, so if we never traded up for O'Davious Shepherd, we would have pick 12 here, which would be interesting, but again, I don't regret it. The Pacers have 11. This means the Pelicans have moved into the top 4. It seems like New Orleans always have draft lottery luck, but the Pacers, who've gotten the number 1 pick 2 years in a row, will not get it again. Kings at 10. Rockets finish at 9. This is a really interesting offseason for the Rockets with Joel Embiid and Paul George both as free agents. I'm curious to see how they spend their money. The Sixers at 8. Of course, they traded for James Harden in the offseason. It seems like the Harden and Embiid trade really didn't work for either side. The Knicks move into the top 4. Utah finishes with the 7th pick. The Jazz have really gotten screwed by the lottery in this series. The Clippers finish at 6, and the 5th pick will go to the Detroit Pistons. The Raptors finish with the worst record in the league, and they don't even own their first-round pick, which is really sad. So now on to the top 4. The Wizards will own pick 4. Washington fans still have to be tickled pink as they were projected 13. Pick 3 will belong to the New York Knicks. So again, the Knicks don't move up to 1. But for once, the Knicks actually get lucky. They've had the worst record 2 years in a row and finished at pick 5. This year, they did not finish with a worst record and go into the top 3. The Thunder get pick 2, which means the New Orleans Pelicans will get the number 1 pick again. They ruined Anthony Davis, they're ruining Zion Williamson, and now they're going to ruin whoever they pick here at 1, because that's how it goes. They still do have Zion, who is a restricted free agent. I would be willing to pay Zion a max and bring him here, but they're not going to let him go. So, Zion and this number 1 pick are going to be a very nice core for the Pelicans. We do own pick 23 currently. I'm definitely willing to wheel and deal during the draft as we advance to the staff signing phase. We have 2 holes at our assistant coaches, and the first guy we're going to go after is Chauncey Billups. As a Piston fan, this may be a little bit biased, but he does have pretty good ratings. I think having a former player on the staff would be pretty nice. The other guy we're going to go after here is Melvin Hunt. He is B's across the board, and if you can get an assistant coach with B's as their grades, then they're a good coach. So, Chauncey would sign. Hunt, however, does not want to sign, so we're going to have to look for someone else for that second assistant coach spot. And the guy I like is Robert Pack, another guy who has all B's across the board. We're going to offer him a pretty big contract, $1 million over each of the next 4 years, and he is tentative of it, so he doesn't want to sign. And now we have to pick our next option, which is Wyatt Zimmerman. A little bit worse than the first 2 guys, but still not bad. Zimmerman would end up accepting. So Chauncey Billups and Wyatt Zimmerman, welcome to the staff. Everybody else will be sticking around. Let's take a look at the NBA Draft Combine now, which certainly should be interesting. The fastest player in the draft is Villanova guard Jacoby Meeks. He's small, but he's definitely quick. Cleveland Brown Jr., Ibrahim Karambo, and Geo Powers with 44-inch verts. Mercedes Ranch leads in bench. Rocket Wolf, best within 15 feet. The best three-point shooter from the college line is Darren Jenkins. And the best three-point shooter from the NBA line is Ian Hall. I have no clue who this Ian Hall guy is. He's probably not any good, but he can shoot. On to the pre-draft workout stage. I think this is a pretty pivotal part of the offseason before the draft because it really tells us who we want to pick. Considering we're at 23, there's not like that one guy who I'm totally set with, but there are a number of players I'm considering. I think looking at some pre-draft workouts could help us. So I'm going after a number of point guards. I want to add a facilitator off the bench. I looked at a few wings in case I do want to trade up to the back end of the lottery, and then I went after some centers as well. I want a facilitator off the bench, and I want some more size. Those are the main things I want with one of our draft picks, and I also want someone who can compete and get minutes right away. We are no longer looking for project developmental players. We're looking for guys who can make an early impact on a championship team because, well, that's exactly what we are, hopefully. We're going to be aspiring to win an NBA championship next year, and we need key young players who can fill key roles, who can produce on both sides of the floor, and can really provide what we want. Guys who can score the ball, guys who can play good defense, guys who can pass the ball well. We're really looking for well-rounded, experienced basketball players who may never develop into all-stars, but someone who can be a good role player because I think we have our core guys pretty much set. Maybe we'll add another starter in the offseason, But for our draft pick, I'm looking for someone who can contribute off the bench and be a good player for us early on. So here's a look at the final results. These definitely did make an impact in who I wanted to select, and I've certainly cut down my list a little bit of players I'm considering at 23. If we do stay at 23, maybe we trade up, maybe we trade down. We certainly have no shortage of options. The pre-draft workouts have also put us at 100% on a number of players for scouting, which is nice. Looking at the mock drafts, they're all projecting us to pick point guards. Draft Express has us getting Tanner Brunson out of Illinois. 2K has us getting Valentine Taylor, a high schooler, and NBA.com has us getting Rocket Wolf, another high school. All three of those guys were players we had in for pre-draft workouts, and I really wouldn't be surprised if we end up using that 23rd pick on a point guard. Hope you guys enjoyed today's episode. Next time we have the NBA draft. After that, we will finish up the rest of the offseason in the episode following, and then we will advance to Season 4. So I hope you guys are excited. Make sure to hit the like button and subscribe. I'm out. Peace.